Good morning, my dear Dharma friends. Happy New Year. On January 1st, a couple of days ago, I watched online the New Year message issued by the Venerable Johnson, the head Dharma master of Won Buddhism. And today's my talk is based on his message that I heard a couple of days ago. Last year, we experienced really unprecedented difficult times in our life, very globally. I sincerely hope and pray in this new year we can overcome all these challenging situations, and COVID-19 situation will be over as soon as possible. But historically, when we look back, humans have faced a lot of difficult times for a long time. We know the Black Death, which started in 14th century in Europe. Do you know how many people died because of that great plague? 20 million people died. In some city like London, half of the people was gone. Or the great famine in Ireland that started because of the potato crop failure in successive years. More than 1 million people died in the early 19th century. And you have heard of the Soviet famine that started by the misleading policy of the Joseph Stalin. You know how many people died? 3.5 million people died. This kind of a disease periodically happened in human history. For example, in the First World War, 40 million people died. Exactly 22 years later, we experienced the Second World War. 56 million died. After war, more than 20 people died because of the war-related disease and the famine. So I would like to say the challenge that we faced last year is not unprecedented at all. When our founding master created the first Won Buddhist community in the early 20s, it's exactly the time of a Spanish flu, which led 50 million people died in the whole world. He endured lots of difficulties. Venerable Johnson, the current head Dharma master, said, even though we think we are in a very difficult time, we have something to eat. We have a house to live to most of the people. But in those days, people starved to death. Our founding master's prospect of the future is very bright. He said, in the coming area that we encounter is really bright and truly civilized world. But before we meet that bright era, human race have to pass the test. The test can be in order is from the revolution, like communist revolution or French revolution. In the common world, test usually comes from the global disease. So by resetting our life goal with a greater faith and living in a very truthful way with a great dedication and sincerity, I think. And all the masters said that we can overcome this test very skillfully in order to meet the great age, coming age. Just like Catherine read the New Year message, the future Buddha is called the Maitreya Buddha. It's the terminology in Mahayana Buddhism, not in Won Buddhism. Maitreya literally means friend. And the order, the world, where the Maitreya Buddha is presiding is a dragon flower order. Dragon in Asia is considered a very auspicious animal. You have seen Venerable Chasa, who stayed here a couple of years ago at the One Dharma Center. His residence is called Yonghwa Jeongsa, Dragon Flower Residence, which is located at the foot of the Maitreya Mountain. It's a strange coincidence. Maitreya Mountain is very close to the Iksan city, where the Korean headquarters of Won Buddhism is located. Our third head Dharma master, Venerable Desan, said, there is an old saying that in the coming world, at the foot of the Maitreya Mountain, there will be established thousands of monasteries and the tens of thousands of retreat centers. So one day, Chang San-nim, the assistant minister of our head Dharma master Taesan, asked them, so far, we had that old saying, but so far, there's just a few retreat centers or monasteries there. When those all monasteries will be established, Venerable Taesan said, thousands, tens of thousands of retreat centers and monasteries will be built. Means each and every house, each and every place will become the practice center. That's its meaning. So one disciple asked to our founding master, in that Maitreya Buddha world, who is the leader? Who is the precursor? Then our founding master said, Maitreya Buddha, or I am the leader. He didn't say in that way. He said, the person, the practitioner who is awakened to that truth will be the master, will be the leader of that world. How can we become the leader? That greatly bright world is not come free. We have to make effort. So just like a head Dharma master said, if we actualize one item of essential dharmas of daily practice, then one paradise will be created. If we put into action two items of essential dharmas of daily practice, and two paradises will be realized in our house, in this society, and in the whole world. Essential dharmas of daily practice is composed of 9 items. The first 3 is the most essential. as we always chant at the end of the service, the mind. Dosung's mind is originally free from disturbance, delusion, wrongdoing, but disturbances or delusions or wrongdoings arise in response to sensory objects. Let us restore the samadhi, equanimity, wisdom, precepts of our original nature by letting go of those disturbances. In my experience, when I make a wrong judgment or misbehave or make unwholesome choice, usually when my mind is not focused, when my mind loses its cool, I tend to make mistakes. That's why among threefold practice, cultivation of spirit, cultivation of wisdom, choice in action, the first is spiritual cultivation. So the first item of essential dharmas of daily practice is about how can we restore the tranquility, the focus, concentration of our mind, especially when we lose our center or control. When you read, it's just like some formula. In order to drive your car, you do not have to become an excellent car mechanic. Just knowing several essential things is good enough. So, in order to use our mind very well, we do not have to wait until we attain great enlightenment, like Sotaesan or Shakyamuni Buddha. Based on his teaching, by this formula, we can use our mind, restore our tranquility of our mind when we got upset or angry or jealous, etc. In order to use our mind, why using our mind is very important? Because our life, our destiny depends on our using our mind. If we skillfully use our mind, it will change our life destiny. You can attain what you would like to accomplish. In order to, when you drive your car, as I said, you do not have to become a perfect car mechanic, but at least the basic principle, how the brake works, how the gas pedal works. So in order to change the direction, you have to use your wheel in what way? How the car moves. Likewise, in order to use our mind very well, understanding the basic principle of our mind, how our mind functions, is very, very helpful. The first item says that the mind is originally free from disturbance. This is very, very important. Our mind is originally, inherently free from disturbance, free from delusion, wrongdoing. Today when I look at outside, there's no sun. Cloud is very thick. However strong the wind is, the cloud is formed. Even though we cannot see the sun, the pure, clear sky, empty sky, cannot be tainted, cannot be influenced. Our original mind is like that. technically it is called the 진공, or true emptiness, true voidness. But disturbances arise in response to sense object, in response to certain condition, just like the wind arises, just like depending on certain conditions, clouds are formed. For example, I was very peaceful, but my spouse asked me very unreasonable thing. At work, my boss said very nasty thing. In response to some sense object, some disturbances arise. It's just like a mind weather. From nothingness or true voidness, something arises. From nothing to something, technically, it's called the 묘유, marvelous existence. Marvelous existence. It's applied to the nature as well as to our mind as well. But each and every moment, the shape of the cloud is changing. Have you seen any wind that's just still? It's constantly moving. Wow, I was angry yesterday for the whole day. But each and every moment, the quality, the intensity of anger or whatever things, resentment or disappointment, is constantly changing. The nature of all phenomena, whether it's mental, emotional, physical, the basic characteristic is impermanence, it's a change. So it's called 조화, we usually translate that, creative transformation. So why our founding master wrote this formula in a very detailed way, but very succinct, concise way, so that we can utilize that. If the manual is very complicated, we cannot use that. Whether it's the manual of a washer or the iPhone, whatever things they are. So our mind is originally free from disturbance, originally free from delusion and wrongdoing, but it can happen. But it will disappear eventually. But the point is, how can we very quickly, skillfully restore our innate tranquility, innate wisdom, innate precepts at this very moment? That is the point. Let's call that meditation in action. My first workplace was the Seoul Meditation Center. At the time, there was a teacher, Park Young-hoon. He's very dedicated. One Buddhist who apply one Buddhist teaching, especially essential Dharmas of daily practice in his school. He worked at the alternative high school. Most of the students are high school dropouts. They are all troublemakers. Beyond the troublemakers, some are incarcerated many times. One day, there was one student, and he skipped the class too often, and he caused trouble. He fought a lot with his fellow student. And usually in that case, the teacher usually report the situation to the parents. And the parents are supposed to come to the school. But he called to his mother several times, but she does not come to school. But one day he decided, I better meet her. I have to go to her hair salon. She was hairdresser. And when he met her in that hair salon, he explained her son's behavior at school. And he causes a lot of troubles with a lot of detailed cases. But she yelled to that teacher, said, what's wrong with my son? That's a very unexpected answer. What's wrong with my son? So to the eyes of the mother, nothing was inherently wrong. Of course, she knows that he's a troublemaker. That does not necessarily mean that he is originally inherent troublemaker. Teacher Park Young-hoon told us he was very, very moved by her mother's word. What's wrong with my son? In that alternative school, students fight all the time. But the biggest problem was most of the students have a very low self-esteem. They usually think that kind of a thought, I'm a troublemaker, became deeply embedded in their mind and heart. For example, a student he called a student to his office, and what happened? He said, my friend talked some very nasty thing to me, and we became involved in quarrel, etc. And many students said, I'm originally very angry person. But the teacher asked, are you angry when you have a very delicious meal, or spend the time with your loved ones, or when you watch interesting movie? You're not angry at that time. So you are not angry person. You become angry on and off. That does not make you are originally an angry person. And he usually shows the students a $50 bill, two bills. One is completely crisp, one is crumbled. To give that lesson, he always carry two $50 bills. Do you think this is crumbled? To the high school student, $50 big money. Do you think this is crumbled? So you'd like to discard that? Whether it is crumbled or crisp, it has the same value. So you are originally a good person. But depending on the situation, you acted or your mind arose in that way. So you just come back to your original nature. Just like you wash your clothes, the students become very hopeful and encouraged. Do you know what? The parents of that alternative high school's wish is to see their children to get the high school diploma. But by this simple mindfulness study, practice, mindfulness journaling, volunteering acts, the ratio in that alternative high school for the students to enter very distinguished universities as high as the other regular school. People can be changed. and they change their mind. So the starting point is our belief or realization that we are originally a good person. Just like the first Buddha's word, all sentient beings are already perfect, lacking nothing. There was one Buddhist minister who thinks that he's too shy, he's an introvert. In order to become a good minister, it's a big obstacle, he thought in that way. But he had a lot of counseling with many teachers. It didn't help. But one day, he happened to be involved in one conversation and he confessed his worry. So he's an introvert, he's too shy. Then the teacher asked, are you originally shy or originally an introvert or extrovert? Tell me. You are originally an introvert or extrovert. He's a minister, so originally he's neither introvert nor extrovert. That very simple reply from the minister really changed his attitude. Before that, in order to change his personality, in order to change his characteristic, he made a lot of effort that made him suffer, and it didn't work very well. But when he clearly realized he is originally neither shy, neither introvert, his original mind is a clear sky. It is true, depending on the situation, he put his gear into reverse. He feels awkward in a new situation. He's not associated very well with the new friends. But that does not mean the gear is broken. Most of the time, the gear is perfectly in the neutral state. So he did not try to change his character. He just realized his original state of mind. And after that, the change became very natural and effortless. So these days we are surrounded by so many bad news. But what can be a greater gospel? Gospel means the good news that we are originally perfect, lacking nothing. Our practice starts here, just like our Dharma master. If we realize one item, one paradise will be realized. If we practice 2 items, 2 paradise will be realized. So let's reflect and actualize the essential dharmas of daily practice in this new year. Thank you.